Okay. Okay, now we're good.
We're all good. It's working now.
When things work, it's always good.
Indeed.
All right. Evening, Chief. Everybody. I see Aaron, or is that Dave Rasmussen?
It's Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. How you doing?
Good. Good evening, everyone.
How's the weather where you're at?
It's really nice here in Lisle. A little breezy, per usual.
Lyle. I thought you were down south, or
No, Dave is gone. He's in Astoria for his National Guard training for the next 2 weeks.
oh, that's good. Okay. Oh, there's Dan. I see Dan's here. Evening, Tanner. I see you're coming on. Good.
How's it going?
Good. Thank you. I see.
Barcott is on Maryland's screen.
Yeah. Marilyn. Okay. Yes. I don't see Scott yet. Scott. Well, he could be on a cell phone. I could see. Scott, are you out there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. All right.
Okay.
So we have all counselors here. Well, we're after the starting time, so I'll go ahead and convene this meeting and call our meeting, a budget meeting to order. May I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Scott Randall,
Present.
thank you. Darcy Long Curtis,
Here.
Tim McLaughlin,
Yes, I'm present.
Rod Runyon,
I don't see Rod.
Dan Richardson,
Present.
Tanner Elliott,
Present.
Beatrice Olivan, Joe Barcott,
I am here.
Ben Ring,
Present.
and Debbie Ferreira.
Ferreira.
I know I didn't say that
Ferreira.
right again.
Debbie
Ferrer.
Ferrer.
A rare. Thank you.
I'm here. Thanks.
All right. I'll go ahead and continue on. We have approval of the minutes next on our agenda. All of you received those yesterday or today. And I hope you had a chance. I'd like to entertain a motion. Anyone?
I've found some typos. Do you want to go over those now or?
Yes.
No.
Yes. No?
I'd like you to just send them to me.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Typos go to Izetta. Other than that, any other corrections on the minutes, just send to Izetta and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes with the Scribner error notation.
Okay. And do I have a second?
I would second that.
All right. Excellent. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right. Looks like unanimous. All right. Let's go back to our budget presentations by fund. We're going to start tonight with the IT department. I presume that Izetta will hear from you.
Yes, thank you.
You bet. Take it away.
There's only two big items on the budget. Our 3/4 time person is going to full time, and the new website has been budgeted. I believe that we have an ample budget for that. Staff will be interviewing companies that do municipal websites, and we anticipate completion of that probably by next April. Did you have any questions on anything?
I see. Well, Dan Richardson, did you have a question? Okay, good. I don't see any other hands up. No other questions? Thank you very much, Izetta. We'll
Welcome.
continue on. It looks to me like library is the next in the booklet. I know it's out, it's not, yes?
General services is the next category.
Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you. Yes, general services. All right, let's take a look at this. General service. Who
So
will be
the main change in this budget is just that we added in, we actually forgot to put the maintenance and tree watering in last year and had to do an amendment. So this year we have both of the tree watering contract and the riverfront trail maintenance contract with Parks and Rec. So that looks like a substantially higher amount, but it actually reflects what should be normal. Other than that, that budget is pretty much the same as last year.
All right. Any questions for Manager Kruger? That is the general services. All right, let's take a look. What are other uses? That's the next tab in our book.
Our finance director will review that category.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. On the other uses, we have the Main Street tourism of $40,000. The tourism for the chamber at $245,000, which was approved by council at the last meeting. The Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, $90,000. And then Northern Wasco County Parks and Rec, $296,996. And that is part of our tourism money that we received that goes out, that is transferred out. Then we have also, again, for the third year in a row, we're transferring out $300,000 to the street fund to help with the street projects. And we are transferring $75,000 to the capital project fund. And as we go through the budget to the capital project fund, we have some bigger projects budgeted this year, and that will just help maintain the fund with consistency of some revenue that will be in that fund. We have $124,827 going to the airport fund. This is partially $65,000 as transferred over every year to the airport fund, and Klickitat County also matches that, and they transfer over 65. We have some additional money that's going in there this year for $59,827 for the finalization of our part contribution for the fuel tank, which is the concrete and the setup and everything of the fuel tank. And then, as I spoke last night, we're maintaining our 10% contingency of $853,000 and our 4 months of reserves for our unappropriated ending fund balance at $971,405. And then for the second year in a row, we're budgeting and asking for approval to put $2,625,912 into the reserve for future expenditures to be used at a later date, but not budgeted for this year. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of those?
If the Main Street tourism, it merges with the chamber, what happens to that money, that budgeted money? Does it revert back to general fund, or?
The $40,000 budgeted in this particular department is for the cruise ship greeting program. So if the chamber and Main Street decide on making some changes to that, it's still all transient room tax funds, so we won't need to do a budget amendment. It'll just go to the chamber instead of Main Street if they decide to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. That answers my question. All right. Anything else in this department? I don't see anything that's glaring. Anyone? Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Here we go. Moving on. Library. Let me get out my red pen for this one.
Our librarian, Jeff Waberneck, is in attendance to review this budget.
Here.
Thanks, Tim. Good evening, everybody. In regards to the library, things are pretty much the same. In light of COVID, some of our patterns have changed, patron habits. So folks are using our online services more. So I budgeted for that. For instance, Library to Go is a online audiobook and digital print book platform. But it's become really popular in the whole state. So what I've done is I've added an extra $18,000 just for Wasco County residents. So they are the only folks that would have access to those titles. So that's one additional expense for next year. Hotspots have been really, really popular this year. As you can imagine, a lot of families are using them to help with their schooling. So I've got some about $55,000, $56,000 targeted for that. A lot of our programming that used to be in person has now become different. We do a lot of take and makes, which have been really popular. On a monthly basis, when we open those up, they within a day or two, people reserve their kit. So a lot of the programming money has switched over to Take and Makes. And we have a digital video platform called Canopy. And we've got some money, as we did last year, targeted for that. So the online has really become more our focus. And we're hoping once we get back to normal, we can revert to a little more in-person programming. But right now the online is where it's at. So we've sort of targeted more money in that area. Otherwise, the budget is pretty much nothing really significantly different. Pretty much the same as last year.
Except for the contingency.
Any questions?
Yeah, the contingency from last year's budget was 186,718, and this year it's 128. Reason must be COVID related and correct?
Well, it's actually more in regards to the whole county, the Wasco County Service District. Maupin and Duffer got a little more money this year. Maupin has a new library, and they have increased personnel cost. And Duffer is in the process of adding a part-time employee. So we switched a few more dollars to those libraries. So it sort of reduced my contingency, although I'm comfortable with it because my county district contingency is pretty substantial. So if there ever was an emergency at the Dalles Library, I could switch some funds over from the county library budget. So it is lower, the contingency is lower, but I'm very comfortable with that number.
Anyone else have any questions in this area? I don't see any hands. All right, thank you very much, Jeffrey.
You're welcome.
Wait, I didn't get a joke when you started. Normally you start any of yours. Let's move.
I told the most fantastic joke, but I think I was muted.
All right, thank you. Let's move on. We're into Public Works now. And David?
Good evening and thank you. Just a couple of very brief general overview comments to provide some context. The Public Works Department is the city's largest department with 45 employees, organized into 6 different divisions, and we administer 8 funds within the city's budget. These funds, or the department deals with monies that are dedicated for specific purposes, such as the water utility funds can only be used for water utility purposes. Same with sewer, and the same with our transportation system. So these that need to be viewed as separate buckets of money that cannot be commingled or used for purposes outside of their utility or dedicated purposes. And then the other comment I'd make is even then within each fund or some of these funds, we have some further restricted monies, such as system development charges, which are fees that are collected when new connections are made to the system from new development that occurs in the community. And system development charges, or SDCs, can only be used for projects that increase the capacity of the system. So water SDCs can only be used to increase our water supply sources, or increase the size of piping, or extend services to areas that don't currently have service. Those types of capacity enhancing projects. So we deal with some monies that have some restrictions and some dedications associated with them. The budget document provides some overview information for the Public Works Department, starting on page 82, and I certainly won't read through that. And our numbers start on page 93 of your budget book for the street fund. And unless there are other general questions about the department, I would just begin with a brief discussion of the street fund budget that's before you. Um,
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. You may notice if you look real close that a couple of the line items in the revenue side are slightly less than they have been in the last year. In the current year, this is the budget for us, our street budget, that took the most significant hit on the revenue side because of COVID. Two of our funding sources are strongly dependent on fuel sales at the state and the local level. And as a result of people being less active, less driving, and lower fuel sales throughout the state, our revenues collected in the current year are going to be about $200,000 less than what we're budgeted. We're okay because we had monies that were in reserve basically for future projects. And we have budgeted for the next year at levels slightly below, but mostly recovered from the current year, slightly below what the historical levels were, and more than what they are in the current year. So we're looking okay revenue-wise. That was already mentioned about this budget being put together with a $300,000 contribution from the general fund. And other than that, I would, we've got a fair number of street maintenance projects budgeted for the year, and these would be back in line 7510. We have about $450,000 of chip seal work we want to do. Another $150,000 worth of crack seal and surface seals. We want to do another year of our ADA sidewalk enhancement projects. We have a couple of small pavement overlay projects, and then a couple of projects from our transportation system plan, which are to improve pedestrian safety in one case and to improve driver safety and some awareness of stop signs on 10th Street at Dry Hollow and Kelly Avenues. Any questions on the street fund?
You can certainly see those signs a mile away, especially at night, but they are very good for the school districts. And thank you for doing that. Also, the intersection on 2nd Street and Cherry Heights, even though it's not perfect, it is a huge improvement in safety for that area. And I think it's working pretty well.
I agree. We've had, we still have, since we did eliminate one turning movement, the left-hand turn coming off of Cherry Heights, we have people trying to find their way around that occasionally. But it has really helped with the delays there. And I think that radar speed sign at the bottom of the off-ramp has helped to regulate speeds coming into that area as well.
Yes, I agree with that. On page number 95, this is just a engineering ROW.
Right
What
of
is
way.
it? Oh, now I understand. All right. Figured some acronym. All right. Anyone else with questions or comments? This is on the street fund.
Just really quick.
Yes.
I might be like missing something on page 93. The 2021 budget for Northwest Natural and Zoyo Group are $5,000 and $81,402 respectively. But on page 95, it seems like the numbers are flipped, and I'm not sure which one's right.
Oh, I think that there was, I guess I'm not sure off the top of my head which one's right. There was a typo. The numbers budgeted are correct. The 81,402 will be the amount from the Northwest Natural Gas. The 5,000 is from Zayo.
Okay, thank you.
Refresh my memory. What is Zayo?
Zayo is a fiber company. It's a fiber line that runs through town.
Oh, I understand. Yes, you're right. Okay, now I remember. All right, anything else on this budget in this section?
I just want to second you, Mr. Chair, that the LED lit up stop signs are, in my opinion, really effective. I'd like to see probably a number more of those in different places. So thank you, Dave, for continuing to experiment.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Let's take If there is nothing else in this section, let's go to Public Works Reserve Fund.
So on page 99, there's actually two funds that are presented on this page. So the top half of the page is what we call our Public Works Reserve Fund, which is Fund 9. This is a fund that we utilize, save money into for the purchase of new vehicles and equipment. We can contribute to it from the water, the sewer, the street fund, and make those purchases when those accruals have been made. Our biggest expenditure in the next coming year out of that fund is the purchase of a large excavator for the wastewater collection division. We're doing a lot of our in-house main replacements, and we can do it quite a bit cheaper than hiring a contractor. We've got mid-size and mini excavators, but we've done almost all the work that we can that's shallow enough that we can do the work with those smaller machines. So this will be like a 34,000 pound machine for those of you who are equipment geeks. We'll be able to dig about 19 feet deep with this, and it's budgeted at about $335,000. The second fund that's presented on this page at the bottom half of that same table is our Transportation System Reserve Fund, Fund 13. This is a fund that we do some of our larger capital transportation related projects. And our big project here is to undertake the third phase of the Scenic Drive Stabilization Project. This is a project that we've been funding with monies that are allocated to the city from ODOT. We receive about $150,000 a year in that allocation, and we can accrue up to 4 years of allocation before money starts falling off the back end of the balance. We've completed the first two phases of this stabilization project and used these state allocated funds for that, and that's what's proposed here for the next year at $564,940.
I see. Just one quick, is that engineer under vehicles, ENGI? It looks like a typo.
Let's see, under vehicles. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it is. It's engineer's vehicle.
I just want to catch those as we move through this document.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. I don't see anything. Okay. Then we're completed with that. Let's move on. We're looking at, let's see, the water fund.
So the water fund, Fund 51, this is our operations fund for the water utility. It actually has two budgets rolled into it, one for the operation of the water treatment plant, the watershed, Crow Creek Dam. The second one for the operation of our water distribution division, which is responsible for maintaining and operating the pipes, the pumps, the wells, the reservoirs, the systems that deliver water to our customers. We really have no significant changes. And the thing that I forgot to mention in my opening comments is this budget has been put together with no anticipated increases or in water or sewer rates. So I think this is the 6th year straight that we have brought to the committee a budget with no water or sewer rate increases. Other than that, there really aren't any significant changes proposed in this water fund budget.
And I, for one, appreciate that because we don't get chased down at the Safeway by constituents. That is one of those things that always comes up is rate increases. So thank you for doing that, keeping those maintained, plus keeping good service to our community. So
Thank you for the comment.
Very, very pleased with that. Anyone else? Okay. Well, that looks good. Let's keep moving on then. We
Next
are now. Yep. Who's?
Next one is our Water Capital Reserve Fund.
Yep.
And this is the fund where we accrue monies for our larger projects. Our big project in here is the Dog River Pipeline Replacement Project. We do also, though, still have some other significant projects identified to be undertaken in the coming budget year. One is an update of our water system master plan, which is now about 15 years old. Those plans are 20-year documents. We're 15 years in. So normally we try to update these 20-year plans at 10-year benchmarks. And so we're a little bit behind on that. We want to begin a project, upgrade our, what we call our SCADA system, which is the system that does the monitoring and control of our water and sewer systems throughout the city. We want to undertake the repairs that are needed to the cirrhosis reservoir. And then we're going to start building, we're going to install the piping in 9th Street, extending eastward from Quinton as we get that right away opened up. And then we're building the bank for another reservoir painting project to undertake a repainting of the Garrison Reservoir, which is our largest reservoir in town, 6 million gallons.
Great. Anything, any comments, any concerns? Appreciate the movement forward on Dog River. That's
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes, here we go. Chair recognizes
Yeah,
Mayor.
Dave, the 2,380,000 that is transferred in from water utility. What is the purpose of that, to keep the fund balance down in the water utility fund?
Well, the purpose of that is to be allocating, moving money from the revenues for the water utility come into the water fund, that Fund 51, where our water treatment and wastewater, and water distribution budgets are located. So all the revenues are coming in there, or nearly all the revenues. And we take out what we need for the operations and then move as much over as we can into the reserve account to build the bank for these big projects. This year, we're able to move the $2.3 million over.
So it's more to build up the reserve fund than it is to decrease the fund balance in the
Yes.
operating fund. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So we have completed analysis on that section. Anyone have any comments or concerns? Then let's keep progressing on, Dave.
So the wastewater fund, Fund 55, this is our operations budget for our wastewater or sewer utility. We also operate our stormwater utility out of this fund and with these employees. There's also a line item in here about 2/3 of the way down on page 125. You might see a $1,194,000 line item. That is the line item where we pay for the contracted operations of the wastewater treatment plant. The Public Works Department administers that contract with Jacobs. This is another fund that we are proposing no sewer rate increases, and we really don't have any significant changes proposed for the budget compared to the current year.
Any concerns? All right. Hearing no concerns, let's move on to the sewer special reserve fund.
So on the sewer side, we actually have 2 reserve funds, and this is the first of those. In this fund, we undertake projects like larger piping projects that we contract out. This is where we do our annual slip lining work, which is the ability to install a liner inside existing pipes and rehabilitate them without having to dig them up out of the ground. We're also proposing to begin work on replacing the sewer lines in Trevitt Street. Trevitt Street is one that anybody that drives it knows that the pavement's in pretty bad shape, but we need to do a lot of enhancement or replacement of the underground utilities, which are also pretty bad, especially the sewer lines, before we go in there and put a new street over it. There's money in this budget, $750,000, to do about 3 blocks of that sewer line replacement project.
I wonder if I can get a state of the water system in the Dalles, because in the past we've had springs that pop up and water that we never knew where those lines went, and we had some wood pipes. And what is the current state of the water system in the Dalles?
On the water system, the reality is that we have a lot of 100-plus-year-old cast iron pipe in the ground. And we need to be thinking about a program to systematically and in a thoughtful manner start replacing that pipe. You may have heard me or some of you may have heard me kind of give this very brief dissertation related to cast iron pipe. The stuff that was put in about the turn of the century, and I mean the turn of the 1900s, 1900, 1910, 1920, was pretty good cast iron pipe that had a life of about 100 years. There was another round of utility work that was done in the 30s and 40s, and that was done with cast iron pipe that wasn't quite as good. It has a service life of about 60 or 70 years. And then in the 50s, there was a third round of infrastructure investment, and the cast iron pipe that was being used at that time has a life of about 50 years. And if you do the math on that, all of that comes due in 2000 to 2020. And this is a situation nationwide. This is not a situation unique to the Dalles. I think we're in good shape on sources. We are addressing one of our most critical needs, which is the replacement of the Dog River pipeline, the wooden pipeline. That'll be our last wooden pipe.
Right.
But then we do have in the future, we need to be thinking about these pipeline upgrades. And we try to, when we do streetscape projects, things like that, or we're replacing a street, we look to put new pipes in the ground before we put a new street over the top of it.
Is that what happened on 3rd Street by Salvation Army? Is it?
Not so, I mean, that is an old line. Well, actually, that's not. Yes, I'm sorry. That is the 1915, I believe, was the vintage of that. Cast iron pipe seems to be is quite vulnerable to temperature variations. And in the falls and in the springs is when we start to get a little bit of contracting and movement of that pipe. And every once in a while, one of those cast iron pipes breaks loose on us. And that's what happened on 3rd Street.
One
And
last
yes,
question.
that is one of our older pipes. The downtown area, we've got pipe from 1900 to 1915.
One other question then to finish this off is what is the current pipe that we're putting in there to replace? Is it PVC or some other?
No, inside the city limits, we use all ductile iron pipe. So that's a pretty strong iron pipe with a mortar lining on the interior of it to prevent corrosion.
And what's the lifespan of this new pipe?
It's 100-year pipe.
Got it. All right. Anyone else have questions?
Yes, one, if you don't mind. Dave, Director Anderson, I should say. Do you have this spelled out anywhere, the state of the water system, specifically the pipes and their lifespan spelled out anywhere in a memo that I could take a look at, or more importantly, maybe one that outlines your thoughts on how we might start getting at sort of sounds like a wide scale replacement of those?
The best thing we've got right now is, as part of our current water master plan, which mentioned was completed in 2006, there is a system pipe inventory as part of that. So at least by material, we'd have a little bit less detail about age. The 2006 water master plan identified a lot of project needs, and to be honest, they all came out as a higher priority than the process of beginning to replace the pipes. So the capital improvement plan didn't have a lot of pipe replacement other than the pipeline for Dog River and the pipelines from the water treatment plant from Wicks to town. Those are both expensive projects, and they were placed above the scheduled replacement of pipes inside the community. I mentioned that we have in this budget an intent to update our water master plan. And that will be the process through which we update that evaluation and start to put together some of those projects.
Thank you.
Do we do that from within, or do we hire a consultant?
Yes, we hire a consultant for that.
Understood. All right. It looks like this completes the Public Works section. Anyone have any?
Mr. Chair,
With all respect, I think we have one more fund.
Oh.
Sewer plant construction fund. Do you show that in your book?
No, let me see. No, wait. Yes, we do. Yes, I did miss that. Yes, go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so this is the second reserve fund for the sewer utility. And this is where we actually build the bank or accrue funds for improvements at the sewer treatment plant. We don't have a project anticipated. We are in that process of building funds for the next big project at the sewer treatment plant. And with this budget, that accumulation will be up to $2.4 million. We also pay some of our debt for the sewer utility out of this fund. So you will see expenditures occurring in the current year, even though we don't have a project.
I see. Any concerns, observations by anyone? Oh, yes, Rich
Yeah.
Mays.
Am I to understand correctly that the sewer special reserve fund is for the water lines and maybe the pump stations, and the other sewer plant is exclusively for the sewer plant?
Generally, we've been doing the sewer pump stations too that are located throughout town. Also out of the sewer plant because it's more, it's not just linear pipe, but yeah, generally speaking, yes.
Okay, and that's why you have two separate reserve funds for sewer.
Yeah, well, I mean, I inherited these and I think it had a lot to do originally with debt for improvements at the sewer treatment plant. And they created a separate fund for the funding that was occurring at that time.
So you think it's prudent to still keep two separate funds on that, or do you think they should be merged? Or maybe that's something you and Angie should work out.
Yeah, I don't really see a benefit or a disadvantage either way, to be honest with you. It's pretty nice for tracking for me this way to just have the plant kind of off by itself.
But yet the water fund isn't set up that way.
It is not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Yes, Councilman Runyon.
You mentioned you're accumulating funds within this particular category for the next big project. And those are the words that caught my attention. The next big project. Do you have any idea what that next big project is?
Yeah, we do. We need to replace the blowers at we have blowers at the wastewater treatment plant that provide the air to the aeration basins, remembering the wastewater treatment plant is a biological process. We have to replace the boiler, which has been giving us problems for quite a few years. We are developing a solution to a foaming issue, and that may require reconfiguration of some of the basins down there so that we get better and more even flow across the basins. And we still have in our master plan, and we've kicked this can down the road a few times. We're going to eventually need to bite the bullet and do something with the admin building down there, which I was reminded here a couple months ago is actually still a job shack that was brought in 1995. You know, on the wheels, it's just a trailer that was being used for the project at that time, and we kept it, and that's the admin building at the wastewater treatment plant. So we're eventually going to have to address that need.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Now this completes this section of Public Works.
Thank you.
Good job. We're moving on to airport. I see Erin's here.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I want to let you know that I have my small and sometimes opinionated assistant with me this evening, so I apologize if there's any background noise, but I'm sure she is contributing really important thoughts. So to start with the airport, I'll start out with some good news. 2020 was a record year for the airport. We had approximately 580 landings from commercial, military, and private traffic, and a record year for fuel sales at almost 220,000 gallons. Our peak seasons were June through October, taking out September due to all of the smoke from the wildfires. And October was okay. Thanks, Parker. October was our best month at a little over 22,000 gallons. And we just set a record in April, this last April 21, for a record April fuel sales also. So it's been really busy at the airport. In February, the airport board met to prioritize goals at a visioning meeting. And so I just wanted to let the group know the top 5 of those as we talk about some of our budgeting things. If you would like to see the whole list, it's on our website, flycgra.com. You can see all of them there. But the top 5 were development proposal criteria and guidelines, which the board just approved those at our last board meeting, and you can see those on the website as well. Number 2 was grounds maintenance. 3 was T-hanger development. 4 was fuel island realignment. And number 5 was to standardize and review some of our lease terms and rates. So going into some of our budget, one major difference this year is that we had budgeted an additional $30,000 under contractual services other, and that's to get some support with ground maintenance. So we'll be going out to bid to find someone to help with that. And then for some of our major projects, we're currently working with Columbia Gorge Community College and Klickitat County to submit for a $2.5 million federal EDA grant. And that's to build a flex space type hangar for the college to use a portion of, and to expand into the business park with to open an additional 4 aviation related lots. So that's still pending approval at the federal level, but it is in the budget. Please stop. Sorry. Our FAA project this year is the design of the South Apron rehabilitation. That's $275,000. And we've been awarded a core match grant for $27,780. At the direction of the board, we did increase our vehicle line by about $3,500. We have about 8 pieces, or not about, we have 8 pieces of equipment that need frequent maintenance, oil changes, parts, tires, things like that. So they've asked us to up that. Other than that, those are our main changes this year. Are there any questions? Or did you miss anything?
I don't see any questions, Erin.
Sorry, Julie, what was that?
All right, I'm back. I had to turn off an alarm that was going off, but are there any?
There were no questions, Chair.
Oh, good. All right. So no questions. We'll go ahead. Thank you very much. Go back to being a mom.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. The next section on my tab is special assessments. Who would present this?
I'll be presenting it.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so on the special assessments, this is the fund for the local improvement districts. The only thing that has changed this year is this will be the 2nd year in a row that we will be doing the 50/50 sidewalk program. Last year we put $25,000 into it, and this year we're asking to do $50,000. I think the program turned out pretty well for last year and was very successful. So we're asking for that. I'd be happy to ask any questions, answer any questions regarding this.
I have none. Anyone? Nope. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, and then the next fund will be the capital project fund. The capital project fund is where we do renovations within the city hall and the facilities of the transportation center, the Lewis and Clark Park. This year we have a couple of items that are a little bit different than the previous years that we are requesting to do on the improvements other than the buildings, the Veterans Building bathroom for $50,000. We're also repairs and light replacements at the roundabout for $31,000. The Union Street tunnel repairs of $11,000, and a 1963 HVAC replacement that will be needed in the future of 210,000. So we're wanting to set aside 90,000 to try to build that for the library. And the library is also setting aside 10,000 per year. So this year they'll have 20,000 established for that. And over the last several years, we started the dock maintenance fund, and we're going to maintain that at 90,000 for any major repairs that may be needed. The one item that we have that goes below that is the port loan for the airport well. And this year, I'd like to just get that paid off. We would save over $20,000 in interest to go ahead and get that paid off this year. Is there any questions?
Not a question so much as a comment. I'm glad to see that we got the money in there for the veterans office down there, and that came from a conversation that I brought to Julie after we had the meeting some months ago about downtown restroom facilities, and something that I was really interested in was changing the doors that are inside to the outside and what that would cost. And Julie took that and ran with it, and we've got a good plan, I think. And once that's completed, there'll be additional restrooms available a lot more often in downtown the Dalles. So I think that was a good outcome from that meeting we had a few months ago.
All right, thank you for your comments. Shall we move on? We're on capital projects is the next tab in my book.
Special revenues.
Special revenue funds.
Special, we just finished that one. All right, special revenue funds. That's the next tab.
So on the special revenue fund group, there's actually 5 funds that we'll be going over, and these funds are to accumulate and spend monies for a particular purpose. Each fund of this type is specified for an individual purpose. And the first fund is the unemployment reserve fund on page 150. And we are not budgeting to put any money into that fund this year. I feel like we have enough money sitting there that we don't need to take from each fund to add to it, which gives us $76,522 to be spent on unemployment if needed. And then we have the Community Benevolence Fund, and that is a fund that that's currently done every year, and there's not any changes on that either. There's just some special department supplies for that fund. And then when we go to the Special Grant Fund, Fund 18, this is the fund that we use for our capital projects for grants. This year, we have, I believe, 5 different grants, 4 grants that we're budgeting for. And most of these are actually the planning department's grants, Alice, and we also have put in here the COVID relief grant. We're anticipating that we're supposed to be receiving half of that COVID relief grant this year, and we budgeted to receive the other half of the grant monies in this next budget year of 1.6 million. And we didn't really go into detail on what the expenses would be on that yet, because we really don't know what that picture currently looks like. I think they're still working on that. Alice, would you like to talk about your grants that you have budgeted for this year?
Yes, I'm happy to do so. The COVID relief grant is for, that's funded with CDBG funds, and that is for rent relief for renters in the area, CDBG funded. And then the other one, Community Development Block Grant. Sorry about that, my use of acronyms. We also have another another Community Development Block Grant program that's been going on for several years, and that has been approved by council, and it is a housing rehabilitation grant. So it allows low-income individuals to apply for and receive money to do repairs such as roof repair, window repair, energy efficiency. And it's what this program does is we serve as the sponsor, a nonprofit in town, the Columbia Cascade Columbia Housing Corporation, nonprofit, vets all the applicants and so forth and runs the program, but we are the conduit to receive the federal money. And that has been funded, and that's been quite successful in the past few years. There is an integrated planning grant, and that is administered by the Public Works Department, and that is for our brownfield sites. It funds some evaluation of properties to determine what hazardous wastes are on those properties so that those can be cleaned up when property owners need that. So it's been a successful program. We also keep our First Street Riverfront connection funds here. This is an urban renewal project, partly funded by Urban Renewal and managed by the Urban Renewal Program. However, we did receive federal grant funds years and years ago, back 2007, 2008. And so we accumulate our funds here. So this is a combination of urban renewal and federal dollars in this fund. And I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anyone? I see no one raising a hand. All right, shall we move on? Now, in my booklet, I have the next two stapled together, unemployment.
Tim, I do have one question.
All right, let's go back.
For Angie, the Community Benevolence Fund related to memorials to the veterans of the community, is that actually the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee's money that's held by the city?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, with that, I don't see anyone else raising any issues or comments. Now, this next one, explain unemployment reserve fund and community beneficiary. I don't know what the acronym for.
Chairman Laughlin, we just covered that one and we're actually on the state office building tab.
All right, we're going on then. All right, let's go. And the next one with me is special grants. Oh, a state office building. Oh, you covered all three of those. All right, let's go on. We're on the state office building. Who's presenting?
I will present that. There's just a couple of changes in our expenditures this year. One is line 4310, which is building grounds, and that changes every year just depending on what projects come up through the capital improvement plan that we have prepared and things that come up because they're more urgent. And this year, one of the projects is a fire sprinkler head replacement. So that's a $15,000 project, which is why that line item is quite a bit higher than last year. And then under our HVAC systems, line 4377, this is one of the years that we have to do a cleaning for $14,000. I think we do that every 5 years on the cleaning. So this is the year for that. Aside from those two items, the budget is pretty much the same as last year.
Anyone? I see nothing. Let's keep moving on. The next tab I see is Special Enterprise Zone Fund.
So if you remember correctly, we set up the Special Enterprise Zone Fund to pay the Enterprise Zone Tax Abatement Agreement. And these funds have accumulated. They haven't been, the college hasn't asked for those funds yet. So they are just, the beginning fund balance is at 1.75. We anticipate from the Enterprise Zone Agreement that we will receive $907,000 this year. And we're just putting in that the college will be asking for their money in this next budget year, and that will be paid out.
All right.
Then we have the debt service funds. And inside the debt service funds, we have 5 different funds. That's the airport, the FFCO 2009 debt, the 2008, and then the utility revenue and funding bond series. On the airport debt services, just a reminder that the tax revenue comes in and we cover the property rentals and everything comes in to make those payments, and then everything flows over to the operating budget of the airport after that. And the 2008 and the 2009 are just the principal and interest payments. And the street fund and the water utility fund, wastewater utility fund, transfer in money to make those payments. And it's the same with the utility revenue bond that was created a couple of years ago. That money comes in from transfers from the sewer and the wastewater and the water, and to make those payments. And that covers our expenses for our bond payments. Does anyone have any questions regarding those?
One, just a clarification, the one you were talking about a few pages ago, paying off to save interest, is that on this particular list? That particular debt?
No, that was the airport.
That was the airport. Quite a few years ago, the Port of the Dalles did a loan with the airport and the general, and we were paying that not through the airport fund, but the city itself was paying that.
So that one is not on this list. That's not the airport debt service fund that we see here.
No, that's being paid out of the capital project fund.
Thank you.
Okay.
I believe that concludes our budget presentation. We're ready for questions.
Wow.
Or for you to deliberate as to approval of the budget.
I have a question.
Chair recognizes Mayor Mays.
Back on that enterprise zone, Angie, we've negotiated three agreements. Does all the money from all three agreements go into the same fund?
The first, we received the 405,000 comes into the general fund annually, and then any of the other agreements will go into that enterprise zone fund.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else for the good of the order? Any other questions? This is, we're coming up to the end of the budget process. This is the time to ask questions or, state concerns.
I'd
Yes,
just like
sir.
to compliment them again, if I could, Chair.
Yes, you may.
This booklet and the detail pages that go along with the initial budget material is extremely helpful. And I know it's a lot of work, and it is very helpful, and it's used. And I thank the team for the effort they put in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Let the record
Absolutely.
show that I am clapping my hands. You see the icon in my.
Yes.
Here we go.
I'd also like to say this is my first time on the budget committee, and it's a little overwhelming, but you've made a really clear presentation. You've answered questions, with so much knowledge and expertise that, it's really an impressive work.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I have one question, if you don't mind.
Yes, you may, Councilman Richardson.
Thank you. Angie, yes, I want to echo Councilor Runyon's comments. Thank you for you and our city manager always putting together such a detailed and thorough document. It is a bit overwhelming, but it's because it's thorough and there's a lot of information there. My question is back on the debt service fund. Is this the sum total that the city has in debt? These four, I should say, bond or debt service funds?
So these are some of the bond payments. There's actually, through the water and the service, there's a couple of loans that are initiated in those. And then there was the capital or the airport loan that was in the capital project fund. But these are the major, the bond payments that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, we are nearing completion. I'm looking at number 9 is approval of the budget. Before we move into that, I'd like to say that I feel we've completed an in-depth analysis of this budget. We've gone basically line by line and looked at all the different line items, and We found nothing that was out of the ordinary nor questioned. It also provided an opportunity for elected representatives and community representatives to come together to, with our fiduciary responsibility of financial overview of our city budget. And I really do feel that we have completed that task. Unless anyone has anything to say, this is the time to say it. I see no one commenting. So let's move on to number 9. I'd like to accept approval for our motions to approve the budget. And this will be forwarded to the city council for adoption. Anyone?
I'll move to approve the budget as presented.
And it was moved by Debbie Farrar to move this. And do we have a second?
I would second.
And
Barcott.
Barcott, Maryland.
Yeah.
All right. We have a second.
Close enough.
And do we have any more discussion?
Only that's the way it should be. With the citizens who are on the budget committee should always make the motions and second them. And I'm glad you spoke right up. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, I agree with that. All right.
Just a little bit disappointed in your tie selection, Mr. McLaughlin. I thought the Colonel Sanders thing was almost complete. So
I want you to see, this is not just a typical tie. It's a Jerry Garcia original silk tie. All right.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Long live Jerry Garcia. All right. So we have now completed and we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. I'd like to see a show of hands. All in favor of adopting this budget, please raise your hand or say aye. I see unanimous approval of this budget. Therefore, with that, Julie.
Thank you. I'd just like to say on behalf of all the staff, thank you for your service. It's a lot of work and we understand how overwhelming it can be. We really appreciate your thorough review of this document.
And it was a thorough review, I can tell you that.
It was well done. We really appreciated the high level questions this year too. I was really pleased to see people relating particular budget items back to the policy. I think that's really valuable.
Agreed. Anything for the good of the order? Then this budget stands adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what do we do with the books that we have? Do we return those?
That would be up to you guys. If you'd like to keep them, you're more than welcome to keep them. If you'd like to return them, we'll recycle them and use them for next year.
And we bring them by the city hall since it's closed. That may be difficult.
Yes, and once the budget is approved by city council, we will have the final budget book, which you will all receive at that point in time also, whether you would like a paper copy or a PDF copy, you will all be receiving the final budget also.
All right. This meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you.